Hello and welcome to all of you. Hope you have enjoyed our wonderful sessions till now in Gato 2020. Let's start a panel discussion in the growth of fantasy sports of India. We have with us our moderator Girish Menon, partner in head KPMG India. Now we have our panelists Bhavit Sheth, co-founder and CEO Dream Sports and Dream 11, Sudhanshu Gupta, CEO Paytm First Games, Suraj Chokhani, founder Ability Games, Prateek Kumar, co-founder Nine Stacks and Paboom Fantasy, Mitesh Kangar, co-founder and director Players Spot. Welcome to all of you. Dear delegates, ask your questions from our speakers in the chat box. The vibrant panel may pick a few and answer to you in the end. Over to you, Mr. Menon.
Thank you so much, and hello and welcome everybody to this session on fantasy sports, which is something which is as a segment a lot of us play, and is also something which is very interesting to observe in terms of how the industry has evolved over the last few years. And the topic today is essentially the growth of fantasy sports segment in India. And to just sort of preface that conversation before I sort of move on to discussing with our panelists, just 2-3 points I wanted to make. Right, when we started evaluating the space, and we did a couple of reports, and each time when we sort of mapped out the size of the market during that phase, it was astounding to see the pace at which fantasy sports as an industry has been growing. When we did our initial exercise, in June 16, for example, the fantasy sports user base was nothing, almost about 2-3 million odds. Today, during the IPL, that just sort of got closed down, probably close to about 125 million users, right? On the other hand, the supply side, right, which is a number of operators who've been, providing fantasy sports apps and products, have also grown by leaps and bounds, and we are probably upwards of 120, 130 operators today who are looking at this space. So given the pace at which this is growing, and it's an interesting point to also keep in mind is a lot of these users and a lot of this growth is also on the back of paid products, right? Paid contests which users sort of play for, which is very unusual for any kind of entertainment model that people are traditionally very hesitant to pay, right? So today, what I wanted to therefore explore is what are the kind of things that sort of has enabled this kind of a growth in fantasy sports, and also more importantly, how do we see things playing out as we sort of move forward, right? And sort of discuss some of those elements. I've got a set of panelists with me who are represent some of the top fantasy sports platforms in India, as also the enablers to those fantasy sports platforms. And let me sort of start off with a question which is in that sense top of mind for everybody right now, right? When we sort of went through this entire lockdown and pandemic phase, sports and outdoor events were one of the first aspects to get shut down. And it took a while before it sort of came back into play, right? And fantasy sports as a genre is obviously highly dependent on live events happening. And that obviously had an implication on the organizations during that phase. But as we see, the IPL that just got concluded, not only had significant traction on viewership, but also fantasy sports operators saw a significant pickup in their user base and user engagement levels, right? So I just want to maybe delve into how this is played out, and let me start with how it on this. How the lockdown period was obviously a very tough cycle for everybody, and I know people have tried to do multiple things during this phase to sort of learn from it. But importantly, as we go through the IPL and we look at how the businesses sort of revived since then, how what has been the broad impact of the IPL during this period, and more importantly, how do you see this sort of sustaining as we go forward, both in terms of IPL and other live sports events?
Sure. So Girish, in fact, I'll start off with a sports analogy, right? All of us were waiting, warming up, practicing in the nets, waiting to come back to the ground and hit the ball out of the park. And with Dream 11 IPL, that's what's happened, right? If you look at the viewership numbers also,
Yeah.
it's been stellar numbers, all-time high, 28% increase over last IPL. And the fantasy sports industry has also caught on to that wave. And
Yeah.
so talking about Dream 11, we've crossed 100 million users during this IPL. So
Right.
overall, it's been that wave that has picked up everyone. It's helped that 6 months of lull to kind of slow down and now push into the other sports tournaments also that are coming up.
Right.
And for us, digital sports fan engagement has become even more important than ever before because there's no in-stadium audience, right?
Yeah.
And so we feel that this digital sports fan engagement is going to be essential for the next 6 months at least till in-stadium audience starts coming back.
Right.
And on the sustenance side, what we've also started doing is we started partnering with a lot of these leagues, which are not top tier BCCI, ICC events, to support them so that they can actually go out and they can host tournaments. And that's one part of a strategy that we are adopting to support the entire sports ecosystem as well.
Understand. So, Prateek, coming to you, maybe a quick similar perspective at your end in terms of your organization, but also maybe added perspective on, is there, when we look at the growth that sort of happened during this IPL, is there also some level of catch-up effects in this? Where, people have been essentially waiting for sports to start, waiting for IPL to start, and they had really nothing to sustain them over the last 6 months or so. And therefore, is there in an added sort of scale that you've seen because of that? And as things sort of settle down, do you see this maybe sort of balancing out a little bit?
Yeah, so two parts to it. I think the first part is what did the delay in IPL did to everybody, all of us.
Yeah.
So IPL was I'm saying sorry, fantasy was growing at a good pace, and one of the biggest drivers of growth was all of us as operators putting a lot of effort and money and brain into marketing and growing it.
Right.
So with the IPL getting delayed, at least our revenue targets got delayed by 6 months possibly. But what ended up happening was our product roadmap kind of got fast tracked by at least a year because we had 6 months of team to build a lot of things.
Got
And it made all of us to think that is there a way of using product to kind of increase the growth and get more users in and can retain it. So that was one of the biggest effects that I saw that happened. Now, the second part to it was when you said that was there a pent up demand? Yes, there was, and a couple of quick numbers on that, at least from on our platform that we saw. Before IPL, there were a couple of leagues that happened, which was CPL, and there were a couple of England series that happened. Generally, not more than 10% of your user base ends up playing these kind of leagues.
Yeah.
If assuming them are playing IPL, for example. Whenever the moment these games started opening up, we saw actually around 25% of people came back just to play these leagues.
Right.
That was a clear indication that there were another 15% people trying out different leagues, which was not an IPL or which was not a World Cup.
Got it.
So all through this IPL, what we believe and what we see where the sustenance is going to happen is a lot of people have tried and have played other leagues. And with now IPL ending and a lot of other leagues coming up, with India series coming up, we'll end up seeing a lot of people trying this a lot more.
Understand. Great. Hitesh, thank you for sort of stepping in today. I know Yogesh is unwell, and thanks for stepping in at the last minute. So just again wanted a similar perspective from you, and then potentially another, add-on related point to something which Bhavat mentioned is the whole fan engagement, right? In a situation like this, how do you see? Are you seeing greater, integration between the events and some of these fantasy sports platform to sort of deepen the fan engagement, right? Given that there is no live audience, do you see a greater role for fantasy sports operators to play in this case?
Yes, correctly said. Means there are no audience available in the stadium. So the whole viewership has increased, and people are more engaged to the fantasy sports, just not to passively watch, but to actively engage with the sport itself.
Mm-hmm.
Right from creating teams to discussing with their peers and acquaintances, like what team should be made and what we have seen a sudden growth in referral systems also. Like
Mm-hmm.
people are used to like if I am playing here, please download this app and come to here so that we can simultaneously make team. We can discuss the same things. And oh yes, the this COVID period has actually boosted up the fan engagement in terms of fantasy sports consumption also. Not
Understood.
only the viewership has increased, but we have seen the 2x users growth also into our system. If I say about the player spot, uh, the more registrations have come in than never it has happened. Means if we compare with the last IPL also, this
Mm-hmm.
IPL has worked wonders for us.
Understand. Understand. Great. So I think that sort of clarifies as to how the business has sort of rebounded post the IPL. But Sudhanshu, maybe then a perspective from you on something that again Bhavit alluded to at the beginning, right? And Prateek also mentioned is that a lot of players I know have used the downtime, so to say, to think through innovations, technology changes, better ways to engage with the users. So I think one thing I would maybe sort of therefore like to hear from you is what are the learnings that came to you as an organization when you looked at this period, for fantasy sports, and what are the kind of things that you would therefore think about doing maybe slightly differently as you evolve, going forward. And the second part of the question is, what are some of the innovations and changes and all of that are sort of now being built on to sort of make this whole offering even more deeper and robust. Sorry, Sudhanshu, you're on mute.
Right. Sorry about that. So let's talk about the first part, which is the period, the 6 month period. How has that impacted most of our organizations internally, right? And I would say I think the biggest impact is in two areas, right? One is obviously there's a massive product and tech debt that we all accrue as we are sort of running live operations.
Yeah.
And the 6 month period gave us enough and more time to not just catch up on that, but also think ahead. Sometimes we're just playing catch up, but this was a time where there was no sports and we could really think about how are we going to probably differentiate all of us, right? Affected all of us.
Right.
Second thing, I think is not just limited to fantasy operators, but all companies and startups. Is we all sort of went back to the drawing boards in terms of sustainability, right? Right. I mean, obviously, for many organizations, there was probably some business happening, but for fantasy, it just went down to zero. Right now, how do you, in that time period, use that time period, in fact, to improve on your future sustainability, be it in terms of automating certain processes, and whatnot, right? Even redefining maybe user acquisition strategies and whatnot. So a lot of that happened internally within organizations, which I think has made all of us as an industry probably stronger. And I would say a lot of good practices would have emerged in many companies out of this period. So that's the first part. Now, in terms of the your second question, in terms of what are some sort of innovations that are probably going to carry forward as well. There's many things. I think to begin with, I think all of us got to see something which we thought was unimaginable, which is spectator-led sports, right? We would never have thought that it would be exciting, but I think the IPL probably just completely removed those thoughts, right? We all enjoyed watching the IPL, right? So and there are elements to that spectatorless sports, which even though post the vaccine getting prevalent will probably stay back, right? So now you had some of the fans being showcased within stadiums, right? You had many such innovations which will probably stay back as well, even though spectators will come back.
Yeah.
And I think that's something which obviously is going to be great, right? It's probably going to spin off a whole new sector or industry.
Sure.
The second thing is also, I think we noticed a shift, right? So until now, pre-COVID, it was sports driving fantasy, and COVID saw fantasy actually driving sports as well, and that's what Bhavit sort of alluded to as well, which is in the absence of big events, some of the fantasy operators also started sponsoring some of the smaller leagues, right? Now what that does is that it effectively strengthens and bolsters the sports ecosystem, right? So it's not just now all the money going into the big ones, the big events, but also the smaller events, right? And that effectively is giving rise to probably a whole new sector of sports athletes as well, who may not be able to play at the league or the level of IPL, but will find enough and more opportunities to play at the smaller leagues. So I think these two big shifts would probably go a long way.
No, and I think that's a very interesting point you made, because when we had done a survey earlier this year and the previous year, I think one of the points that came out very clearly is that the users of fantasy sports tend to watch more sports than the average viewer, and probably watch more other types of sports than the average viewer, right? So I think this point about fantasy sports starting to drive sports viewership also is, I think, is a very important one. Maybe it's starting off right now, but I think as we go forward, I think that share, that push will probably increase even further. So I think that's a very interesting take. Suraj, now coming to you, you have a very sort of obviously different perspective, given that you are you have a very strong enabling role also in the whole fantasy sport ecosystem with your organization. Just wanted to get your sense on some of the tech innovation, the other fan and user base innovation that you've seen and which you see is going to be something that will sustain as we move forward.
First of all, for the entire startup system, especially into gaming, what you will feel is like COVID was an opportunity, because more and more people were getting hooked to their smartphones, looking for alternates to enjoy the lockdown period. Most unfortunately for us, it had an adverse effect because we didn't have any sport to offer, because the lockdown was all over the world. Then it was the time there were very few sports like baseball, basketball, and very few sports running across live. So definitely with the other industry stalwarts, we also introduced those games. And very frank, I never expected whether people will be accepting these kind of sports other than cricket, and up to a certain extent maybe football in India. But it was very well accepted. They did their research very well. They did their homework, participated in the leagues. So I can say there is a lot of professionals in this. They are taking it as a sport, as an e-sport, and taking this as a very serious business. So it has given us a completely different perspective that India has the appetite for other sports also, other than maybe cricket and football. So this was the biggest innovative thing. It was the demand of the time. That's why we had to introduce other sports. But the way people took it, the way our fans took it, it was a great experience for us. And definitely, on the innovative front, a lot of things were done. But then again, there are certain norms which we have to follow as an industry. So maybe we couldn't offer a lot of other things than the charter that we follow. But definitely, if you call it innovative, I will call it introducing baseball or basketball and other sports that way.
Understand. Fair enough. So then, sort of coming on to, I think, all of you in your conversations have sort of touched upon some of these points, and I just want to maybe bring it together. So as the industry and as fantasy sports matures and grows larger, and obviously it needs to have more expansion in terms of both the kind of users, the demographics, the geography that you are able to reach out to, right? As also more sports, and cricket, all said and done, is still the largest driver, both in terms of viewership as well as in terms of usage for fantasy sports. So I think bringing all of this together, I just wanted to get some perspectives on what are some of the thinkings and strategies to, one, get more audiences, go deeper into the country, go wider there, get wider demographics, right? Maybe potentially, older populations, more females. And I recall, if I'm not mistaken, when we did our survey, I think I think there were only about 10% of the users were female users, if I recall my numbers correctly. So how do you sort of deepen that, and also potentially how do you get a more sustained non-cricket engagement going on, right? So I think that's some of the aspects that I want to maybe brainstorm with you guys, and maybe Prateek, we can sort of start with you to get some of your thoughts around that.
Yeah, so I think so there are possibly 2 or 3 parts again. Like, one is the reach in terms of geography, and then the reach in terms of users in terms of demography. These are the parts to it. So and then the overall, what are the other things? So the first part is geography. So this is my personal experience. What I have been seeing, the next level of growth, which across all startups everyone is talking about, is tier 3, tier 4.
Yeah.
And, that is where a lot of localization in terms of language, in terms of content has happened. So now, as marketeer business, no more a Facebook and a Google that is going to drive growth or the reach, but it's going to be a lot of those micro influencers who are generating a lot of content across so many content sites, and including a lot of content sites doing very well. So that's a very I would say straight away thing in terms of reaching out to more people. In terms of demography, again, it's more of a chicken and egg always when it comes to fantasy sports and basically the viewership. The more people view the sport, the more people will play fantasy. The more people will play fantasy, the more the viewership will go up. So to break into new demography, I think the first onus always will be kind of increasing the viewership and let people watch that sport, so that people start to also kind of get into fantasy and enjoy the thing. Final thing, all of this is a big role has to be played by the ancillary services. People who are generating a lot of content, as well as are creating different kind of data models and giving it to users. So, and when we talk to a lot of people, when I talk, for example, to my wife, that's saying that, okay, why don't you play fantasy, for example, or what stops you? And her thing is, I don't know enough data. So the next wave that I see is, if the democratization of data in terms of stats happens, the skill is not only to know, whether a player has played, not played, will play, not play, but it's also about, if all of these data points are there, how do I then make a good team? So when all these ancillary services come up, and the other set of startups come up who will kind of democratize the data for users to play, then nothing stops me from kind of playing a fantasy league of a basketball NBA and of a team that I don't know much about. But when I look at the data and I have understanding, so that would again be a growth driver into increasing the reach.
Understand. I think that's actually a very, very interesting point that you mentioned, right? And I think that's an area where we have seen more and more startups and individuals coming up. I think probably still very informal and fragmented in terms of the model, but it is something that we are starting to see more setup sort of offering data, research, analytics, trainings, tutorials on how do you build a team, how do you win contests, aggregator platforms pulling together and comparing various side. So we are seeing some interesting models develop, and maybe just to get perspectives on this, Mitesh, maybe if you could weigh in on this as to how do you see this ecosystem developing around the core fantasy sports offering, and how do you see that enabling the growth of the sector?
Yeah. So basically, the fantasy operators have already come in. Rightly said by Pratik, like there are many other uh, small industries which need to come up in perspective of data, in perspective of team creation, in perspective of statistics. These are many areas still untouched where these many of the innovations are likely to happen over there, which may indirectly help the user to engage more with the fantasy, and this will eventually help the sports otherwise.
Understood.
Uh, Coming back to the question you asked before, we have actually seen in this IPL, we have seen a wide range of new analytics, which we earlier used to have. Like we generally had 18 to 35 of the age was a normal target audience.
Hmm.
But in this IPL, we have seen many 35 plus have also participated into this. We have seen a slightly rise, not much, but still a considerable figure in the female participation also.
Hmm.
And this has actually lead us to onboard Smriti Mandan as our ambassador, so that we promote more and more sports into the female segments,
Sure.
and the more participation comes in from the females perspective also.
Hmm.
Uh, because now it has been a viewership from the home. It's not like going to stadium or only on the roads. It's has been discussed. Now it's been discussed in the home also. So every female in the home, right from the mother to sisters to wives, they are taking participation into the sports whenever there is a match on the TV. Slowly and gradually, yes, the rise is there. Not much, not considerable, but we are seeing the difference right now.
Understood.
So
Fair
I
enough.
would just like to extend on the point that Pratik
Yeah,
had
yeah.
also made, right? About the chicken and egg of viewership driving fan engagement on fantasy sports, and then fantasy sports also driving viewership. So over the last couple of years, we've seen kabaddi as a sport rise quite largely for fantasy sports as well. And one of the reasons is because of the way it has been packaged, because of the broadcast penetration that it has. And
That's
what we realize is that fantasy sports as an industry cannot work as a silo, right? We have to work
what.
together with whether it be sports league, whether it be broadcast partners, and that's what we started seeing a lot of people in the industry starting to do. So
Understood.
that's one entire diversification strategy of how to add more sports, in a logical manner where. The sport viewership itself drives fantasy sports engagement, which in turn drives more viewership.
Understand. No, I think that's absolutely in sync. And Bhavit, staying on with you actually, as we sort of look at where we are. Just a simple question therefore is what next, right? Where are we headed next? What are the what are you as individual players and as an industry thinking from a longer term perspective, right? When we look at diversification, growth, I mean, is it more of the same? Is it like we said earlier, going deeper, getting more users and all of that? Or are we thinking about saying, okay, can we add more genres, right? Outside of sports, can we add more offerings to the same set of users, and keep them more engaged? Can we look at other markets, ancillary offerings? And I know you have fan code, for example. So what next? What are we thinking about as we go along this path, say over the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, so we at Dream Sports, which is the parent company of Dream 11, have coined our vision as make sports better,
Right,
and that's what we are going to go after, right? What can we do to make sports better for sports fans, right?
right.
Uh, so as you said, we've started Fan Code, which offers content, which offers fan merchandising, which offers sports research. Then we
Right.
have also started Remex, which is a sports accelerator. Dream Set Go, which is a sports travel and experiences company. So
Right.
what we are looking at is a larger sports ecosystem, and how we can kind of fill that gap. I would say today the sports market, sports fans are underserved, and how do we actually fill those gaps? How do we make sure that we offer the services that sports fans deserve? And that's what we are looking at doing for from a dream sports perspective, from when we look at diversification.
So it's sort of therefore evolving into more of a wider offering, capturing all the elements around a sports viewer in terms of what you like to engage with the sport, besides the fantasy sport offering, right?
Yes, and we look at ourselves as a sports technology company.
Understand. So, Sudhanshu, then, maybe from your perspective, right, and particularly given that at a parent level, you have the wider Paytm ecosystem also, to leverage on, and to build off. And how do you see, from your perspective, how do you see this aspect around, one, around fantasy sports, and two, around the wider sports ecosystem evolving for you? And, what kind of play do you see for yourself over the next 5 years?
Right. Girish, I think Bhavit sort of touched upon this very well, which is the fantasy sports industry and overall sports ecosystem. It needs to go hand in hand, and I think that's what's really starting to happen as well, with a lot more sort of funding and investments also coming into both of these sectors, right? So on the one side, you have the fantasy sports companies getting funded, and then on the other side you have increased interest coming in different leagues as well, right?
Yeah.
So what's happening overall is that as Bhavit again said, right, is the quality of sports is also increasing, right? So it's not just now the tier one sports offerings that are sort of engaging users. Like, I'll just take an example, right? There are domestic leagues that happen now. Domestic leagues have traditionally happened for decades, but with increased collaboration between the sports associations and, let's say, fantasy sports operators, these domestic leagues will not just find more viewers, which will happen, let's say, through increased distribution of their content, maybe through OTT,
Right.
but also happen to, let's say, have better sponsorships on board, and so on and so forth. So effectively, the ecosystem is going to evolve, one, in terms of increased distribution of more sports events, right? And that's now already democratized thanks to OTTs, right? So it's not just, let's say, one or two channels that people watch, but you could essentially have an app and choose to watch any sport which may be happening in parallel anywhere across the world, right? So there's going to be that. The second is at our parent level, for example, Paytm is also involved with ticketing, with commerce, right, and travel. So again, earlier, so everything, I think, starts from distribution. Everything starts from viewership at the end of the day, right? If I'm not even aware of there's X other series that are happening, I'm not even going to, let's say, bother with watching them or, let's say, following them, right? Now with many sports focused technology companies coming into the fray, suddenly there is going to be more viewership, hence expanded market for more sports leagues. And when I'm saying sports leagues, it's not just focused on cricket, but also focused on soccer, kabaddi, and in fact, even esports, right? So esports, again, is going through its own nascent sort of stage of growth in India. But 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, India is expected to be a massive esports market, which again links very well with fantasy, right?
Yeah.
So there's going to be increased distribution, increased viewership that automatically creates more opportunities for data science companies to come in, for travel companies, ticketing companies to come in, merchandise to come in, right? And automatically creates an avenue for brands to also partner and sponsor with these leagues and matches to then reach out to the relevant audience, right? So I think we're at a very exciting stage when it comes to not just fantasy sports, but sports overall in the country, right? And that's what's going to really open up and explode over the next decade or so.
Understand. No, I think that's very very clearly put out. Suraj, a quick perspective from you also in terms of how do you see the next few years from diversification, growth, and any other aspects that you're thinking about.
See, the way I look at it, maybe 5 years back, people used to get engaged in sports as a passive viewer. They just had maybe 4 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours of time pass. But now they are more a kind of an active viewer. And when I say active, they dig deep into data. They want to participate. They want to be part of the whole ecosystem of the sports. A lot of people I've seen who have never went to stadium, now they go to stadiums also to have a first-hand experience. Even for a newcomer, they go deep down, like how he has performed in his previous maybe domestic leagues, maybe at state level, at a district level. So this whole thing is evolving like anything. And now a lot of people are looking at it in a very different way altogether. So this is like maybe a passive sport has turned into an active sport, because this is the biggest achievement maybe which fantasy has given. And now, like I said, it's not just limited to cricket, to other sports also it has expanded. And I hope this journey continues.
Understand. Fair enough. So, I think we are, getting towards the end of the session. So, I just want, closing remarks, but closing remarks on a topic which is probably the elephant in the room right now. This quick, 30 seconds from each of you. The whole perspective around regulatory, right? I think there have always been, uncertainties in this industry when it comes to regulations. And lack of clarity around this. But over the past few months, we've seen, successive state governments take sort of an adverse view with respect to online gaming. Within that, also, there's a lot of lack of clarity on what exactly and which part of gaming does it actually address, right? And who does it actually impact? But just your perspective on how do you see this? And how are you guys thinking about it more than anything else? And how would you sort of deal with situations like this with the kind of regulatory risk that exists? Bhavit, maybe we can start with you and go around the virtual table, so to say.
Sure, Girish. So, any industry which is disruptive is going to face some kind of regulatory pressures, right? Because these are industries that people don't understand. And that's our job, to educate people, educate governments, educate the regulators. And, that's what we have been trying to do now with our industry body. So we have a Federation of Indian Fantasy Sport. And so it's not as if the industry has not been regulated. We've adopted self-regulation. But at the same time, we would welcome regulation from the government as well. And that's a conversation, that's a dialogue that needs to be had on the education plus regulation side. And that's an ongoing effort for disruptive industries.
Sure. Mitesh, Sure.
Yeah, I think we respect the bans which are recently happened, and this actually brings out a spark of discussion among the whole fantasy operators to bring out a regulation, and through FIFS and other such bodies reach out to the government and make them understand like what we are actually doing and what is harming the society, and we are not that part of the society. We are doing our regular part, and this dialogue should start within the fantasy operators, and it should reach to the government.
Understand. Prateek?
Yeah, pretty much agree to what everyone has said. Basically, the thing is, we have a industry body, FIFS, and there's a federation. And It is all of us need to come together, and the federation's job is to liaison with the government, talk to the stakeholders, talk about what is right, what is wrong, what can be done, not. For us as operators, I think it's more like, we are a startup, so we always think from a startup perspective. What we look at is what we need to do is do things right. And not, when you do a startup, things get affected, markets change, all of that. Similarly, in this case, our job is to do it right from a perspective of, following self-regulation, following the law to the T. And then hopefully with all of dialogues and everything, things will improve on that front. The only thing we do our job right.
Got it. Sudhanshu, your perspective?
Well, I think we need to first of all recognize that fantasy sports is not just a growing industry, but one is here to stay, and two, it is a value creation happening for everyone. It's by way of the government, it's by taxes, by way of sports associations, sports athletes. It's definitely putting them, giving them more visibility, better engagement, and lastly, from the point of view of the users, apart from the entertainment value, it's also, for many people, it's also a way for them to earn money, right? And I sort of equate it with investing in equity, right? At the end of the day, it feels vague and scary when you don't know about it, but when you understand it, then you realize there's so much of depth and skill in it, right?
Sure.
So I think step one is to recognize, and then of course, I think regulation is the way forward. It is the way to go. When operators start sponsoring the biggest league in the world, it's definitely welcome to regulate it, just so that one, you keep away the bad elements, and two, it also reduces the sort of vulnerability within the sector as well, right? So definitely the way forward is to recognize and regulate fantasy as well. Yeah.
Suraj, closing thoughts from your.
See, in India, we are in a peculiar situation. Like gaming is a state subject. Now, every 29 state cannot come up with a different set of regulations. So all I can expect is like central government takes a note of this, takes cognizance, comes up with a draft rule which a state can follow. Then it will be much easier for the industry as a whole and for every state also. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed as far as the regulations are concerned.
Understand. Great. So I think, thank you so much for, all your inputs. Why don't we now open this up for any questions?
So we are already over time with over. Thanks to speakers for amazing discussion. Thanks to our platinum partner. Thanks to other partners as well. Thank you. Stay tuned.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.